Hello, lower school. Today we are going to be making a landscape. Landscapes are pictures of the outside. So when you're doing a landscape, you're doing trees, you're doing water, you're doing the sun, the sky, the ground, all that stuff. So let's get started. And it's gonna be super colorful. All right, first things first. When you're making a landscape, you need to have your paper set up horizontally, okay? So that means it's not this way, like up and down, but it goes across like this, horizontally. And this is called landscape. Because when artists make landscapes, they have to have their paper like this. And why? It's so you have a lot of space to draw your ground, your details, and your sky. Okay. And we're gonna do it a little bit different. I know some of us did landscapes last year, and this is sort of a review. But every landscape is different, and like a sport or an instrument, it's great to practice with art. Okay, and drawing. So first thing I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna use a marker. You guys can use a pencil. Pencils are easier to erase if you make a mistake, so make sure you draw lightly, okay? All right, I'm just using a marker so you guys can see better. All right, so first, when you're making a landscape, you gotta think about the paper that you're putting it on and the space that you're going to use. So landscapes are broken up into three parts. The bottom of your paper, that's the foreground. The middle of your paper, that's the middle ground. And then the back of your paper is the background, or the top, I should say. So bottom, foreground, middle ground, and top is the background. Okay. So for the foreground, I'm gonna just draw a line. And when you're looking at the ground, it's gonna be part of the ground. It's not gonna be perfectly straight, so you don't need a ruler. So I'm gonna draw a line right here for my foreground. My middle ground, I'm also gonna draw a line. And I'm gonna draw another line right across, right in the middle of my paper, and this is gonna be my middle ground. The background also needs a line. And I'm going to use the same kind of line. I'm not worried about making it perfectly straight. I'm gonna put it right here. Okay, so I have my three lines. So I have my foreground, middle ground, and background. This line right here, this is the horizon line. And the horizon line is where the sky and the ground touch. And when artists are making a picture, the closer things get to this horizon line, the smaller they get. So if I have a road and it starts right here, I'll draw my road, two lines, 1, 2. It's gonna be big, it's gonna be wide. When it gets to the middle ground, maybe it's going over a hill, and we can make it curvy, it's gonna be a little bit thinner because it's a little bit further away from the viewer, the person that's looking at the picture, so it's gonna be smaller. And then the background, the road's gonna get even skinnier because it's further away. So the further away things are in the picture, the smaller they're going to be. For example, if I have pumpkins, and this is a pumpkin patch / apple orchard, it's almost that time of year. So if I've got apple trees on this side and pumpkins on this side, you're gonna change the size as they get closer to the horizon line. So for my apple trees, and I'll show you how that works. I'm gonna make my trunks. So I'm gonna make 2 lines here. I'm gonna make 3 apple trees. And I'm gonna make the trunks just with 2 vertical lines. And vertical means going straight up and down. And for the leaves, I'm just gonna draw curvy lines for the leaves to make the top of the tree. If you wanted to get fancy and draw the branches, you can, but I just wanted to keep it kind of simple today. And it's okay if they're touching and overlapping. To make the apples, I think I'm actually gonna use my skinnier marker to make some circles for my apples. So a few apples on this tree, a few apples on this tree, and a few apples on this tree. On this side of the road, I'm gonna have a pumpkin patch. So I'm gonna draw 3 pumpkins. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Since these are at the bottom of your paper and they're in the foreground, they're going to be big. We're gonna go move to the middle ground now. So think of it kind of like when you're ordering a drink, big, medium, small. So the next step, if you're drawing the pumpkins, they're gonna be medium sized. So they're gonna be a little bit smaller over here because they're a little bit further away. The trees are also gonna be a little bit smaller because they're further away. Okay, and I'm gonna do this trees the same way with the 2 vertical lines for the trunk, and then the top, squiggly lines. And these trees are a little bit further apart. Well, that's okay. And I'll make my apples, but you see, even my apples are smaller because they're further away. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the background. The background, the things are the smallest. Remember, big, medium, small. So my pumpkins, they're gonna be tiny, really small. If they were even further back by this horizon line, they'd be super tiny. The trees on this side of the road, same size trees, gonna be small. And I'm making them the same way, but they're smaller. And if there were trees on the horizon line, kind of next to these pumpkins or near the horizon line, they'd be even smaller because they're super far away. So you're creating the illusion of space. And this is really fancy drawing, guys, really fancy. This is like really advanced stuff right here. Okay, oh, I forgot my apples. I'm gonna have my apples. It's okay that my trees are going on top of the horizon line. They're overlapping. Okay. Now, I think I want to add some other details. So if I have a sun in the background, maybe it's a sunset, I'm going to do a half sun right here. And then I'm going to add some colors. So for my pumpkins, I'll do orange. Same thing for the medium-sized pumpkins and the small pumpkins, and then the tiny ones in the back. Now time for my apple trees. I'm gonna use 3 different shades of green, some dark and some light. I'm coloring my trees. And if you didn't want apple trees and you just wanted regular trees and maybe they're in fall colors like red, orange, yellow, you could do that instead. Before I color in my sun and my road, I'm gonna add some color to the ground. You could use whatever materials you have, whether it's markers or crayons. I'm using markers. But when I'm adding with the markers, I'm gonna just draw lines. So they're gonna be horizontal lines just going across this way. And like I said, if you wanna color them in all the way, you can, but I just wanna use some lines. And if you want to change your lines, so say these are going horizontally and you want these lines over here going vertically, you could do that too. I'll do the same thing over here. And then maybe I want to add the vines. So the squiggly lines for the pumpkins. If you don't want to add those, you don't have to. And if you're having trouble seeing them, you could even use a black or a brown marker. I'll show you over here what that looks like without the lines. I'm just using squiggly lines because when pumpkins grow, they grow on really squiggly lines. And then of course, since these pumpkins are far away, they're gonna be a little bit smaller, the vines are. Okay. And you can use dark green and light green. You can mix the colors together. And then I want to use some light green back here. If you need to turn your paper so it's easier, you could do that. I'm using thick and thin lines. So thick and then thin. Time to color in the road. When you're coloring with markers, it's always good to color in one direction. So if you're started going up and down, all of your lines are going to go up and down on your road. All right, time for the sun. All right, I'm gonna start coloring in the sky. If you wanted a sunset, you could add colors for a sunset like red or orange or purple or pink. I'm gonna do a blue sky. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with my light colors on the bottom. So light blue. And again, I'm just making lines. If you wanted to color in all the way, you can. These are just those horizontal lines. And then I'm gonna get darker as I get to the middle. I'm gonna go around my sun. And then a little bit darker towards the top. And if you want swirls, you could do that like you're doing the wind or clouds. Kind of like Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. How he had the swirls in this picture. Do that too. Or you could just do lines. Whatever you want. It is your picture. And then maybe I want to add a little orange to my sun. All right. And then if you want to go back in and add some more details and lines, you can. I'm just gonna add a few more lines down here. And I think I am done with my fall landscape. So I have my foreground, middle ground, and background. The things in the foreground are big trees, big pumpkins. Middle ground, medium-sized trees, medium pumpkins, and then background, small trees and small pumpkins. So the closer you're getting to that horizon line, the smaller your things are getting. And that's going to give the illusion that your road and your apple orchard and your pumpkin patch is going back into the distance. And that's called perspective. But we'll do more perspective lessons later on, okay? Thank you so much for joining me today to create my fall landscape. And I cannot wait to see what landscapes you guys create. Have a great day.